Have you ever stopped to think about why a price change at some other business, maybe even one across town, can cause ripples that rock your own sales numbers? Well, it's not magic, and it's definitely not a coincidence. It's a core market dynamic. Today, we're going to give you the map to understand those ripples, to identify your business's true friends, and yes, its enemies, using an incredibly powerful tool called cross-price elasticity. Okay, let's just start with this simple but really profound truth. No business is an island. This is the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. Your company doesn't operate in a bubble, right? It exists inside this complex ecosystem where every single pricing decision, even one made by a totally different company, can directly affect your bottom line. So, that leads us to the big practical question for any manager. How do you actually measure this? I mean, if your main competitor jacks up their prices by, say, 10%, what does that really mean for you in hard numbers? Can you actually put a figure on that impact? The answer is a resounding yes. And knowing how is the key to making much, much smarter strategic moves. To solve this puzzle, we need a specific tool. And this is where we get to the absolute heart of the matter. We are going to measure this ripple effect by introducing something called the Cross-Price Elasticity of Demand, or just XED for short. Now, I know it sounds a little bit academic, but the concept is actually incredibly simple. All XED does is measure how sensitive your customers are to someone else's price changes. It literally puts a number on how much the demand for your product, let's call it good A, shifts when the price of another product, good B, goes up or down. Let's take a closer look at the formula itself. See? It's just a simple fraction. You take the percentage change in your sales, the quantity you sold, and you divide it by the percentage change in the other company's price. The number this little calculation spits out, well, that's the secret code. Because whether it's a positive number or a negative one tells you everything you need to know about your relationship with that other business. So that number the formula gives you, it's all about the sign. Let's start with what happens when that number is positive. This, right here, is how you identify your rivals. A positive XED means that when another business raises its price, it's actually good news for you. Let's make this crystal clear with a real-world example from our source material. Imagine you run a hotel in a beautiful beach town called Tanjung Lesung. Now, let's say a nearby competing beach town, Anyer, experiences a general price hike for its hotels. So what happens next? It's pretty logical, right? Tourists who are planning a beach vacation, they see those higher prices in Anyer and they start looking around for a better deal. A whole bunch of them discover your town, Tanjung Lesung, and as a result, the demand for your hotels goes up. Now, let's just plug this right into our formula. The price of good B, the hotels in Anyer, went up. That's a positive change. And the quantity demanded of good A, your hotels, also went up. That's another positive change. A positive divided by a positive gives us a positive XED. Simple as that. Okay, so the why behind this is absolutely crucial. This happens because in the customer's mind, these two options are pretty much interchangeable. They are switching from a more expensive option to a more affordable one that basically serves the same purpose. In economics, we have a name for these kinds of products. They're called substitutes. All right, let's flip the coin and look at the other side. What happens when your XED is negative? This is how you find your partners, or what economists call your complements. This is the situation where another company's price hike actually hurts your business. Let's go back to our resort town example. This time, imagine you own a business that offers amazing dive tours. Now, suppose the local independent shop that rents out all the essential diving gear, the masks, the tanks, the fins, decides to jack up its rental prices. Now think about it. Even though your tour price hasn't changed one bit, potential customers are looking at the total cost of the experience. That's your tour plus the now expensive gear rental. And for a lot of people, they decide it's just not worth it anymore. The painful result is that demand for your dive tours goes down. So what does our formula tell us now? Well, the price of good B, the gear rental, went up. That's a positive change. But the quantity demanded of good A, your tours, went down. That's a negative change. A negative divided by a positive gives us a clear negative XED. And this illustrates the why perfectly. It's because these two things are used together. They are consumed as a package. One is way less valuable without the other. This special relationship makes them complements. You can think of them as two essential pieces of the exact same puzzle for your customer. This slide just sums it all up beautifully.
By looking at the sign of the XED, you can literally map out your entire business ecosystem. A positive sign that identifies your rivals, your substitutes. A negative sign that identifies your partners, your complements. Honestly, learning to see your business world this way is a complete game changer.
Look, this is all fascinating theory, but the real power here comes from putting it into action. So how does a smart manager actually use these insights? Let's talk about turning this knowledge into concrete, powerful, strategic action. This slide basically lays out the playbook that XEOD gives you. If your rival, a substitute, raises their prices, you've got a choice. You can follow their lead and raise your own prices, increasing your profit margins. Or you could hold your price steady and steal their customers, gaining market share. For your partners, your complements, the strategy is totally different. If you sell a premium product, like a stay at your resort, it might actually make sense to subsidize its complement, like that dive gear rental, to protect the overall demand. You have to think bigger. Even the fee for the toll road to get to your resort is a complement that affects your business.
And this all leads us to the final and maybe the most important takeaway. This framework forces you to look beyond the obvious competitors. Who are the other businesses out there, maybe in totally different industries, whose pricing decisions are secretly helping you or hurting you? Once you start looking for substitutes and complements, you will start seeing them everywhere. So you have to ask yourself, who are your business's hidden partners and rivals? The answer might just surprise you, and it could be the key to your next big strategic win.